You done now?
Movie. Minute 16.
Have we met before?
I've certainly seen you before, although you may not have seen me.
So, Miss Scarlett, does this mean that you live in Washington, too?
Sure do. But does anyone here not live in Washington, D.C.?
I don't.
Yes, but you work for the United Nations. It's a government job. And the rest of us all live in a government town. Anyone here not earn their living from the government one way or another?
Wadsworth, where's our host and why we've been brought here?
Ah, good evening. You are eagerly awaited.
Are you locking me in? I'll take the key.
Over my dead body, sir. May I take your bag?
No. I'll leave it here till I need it.
It contains evidence, I presume.
Surprises, my friend. That's what it contains. Surprises.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. Boddy?
What are they all doing here?
Eating dinner. Do sit down, Mr. Boddy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Clue the Movie Podcast, where we talk about the 1985 cult classic Clue 1 minute at a time. That is 60-second intervals for people who are unaware. My name is Brad Gilmore. I'm joined always by the Clue documentarian, Mr. Jeff Smith. Jeff, how are we doing this week?
Doing great. We're on 16.
Minute 16, we're about to jump into. Y'all just heard it at the top of the show. I think before we pick up with minute 16, there were a couple loose ends from minute 15 that we should address. So let's talk about it. Let's start with you were going to give us your fifth best Christopher Lloyd film, or of your top five Chris Lloyd films not named Back to the Future. So that means Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 not available.
Don't count. So mine were Clue, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What else did I say? Did I say other ones? Now that I think about it, wait a minute. Because I said Addams Family, maybe.
Radioland Murders.
Radioland Murders. Okay, so the other one is a movie from the 80s with Michael Keaton and Stephen Furst, who was Bluto in Animal House. It was also in Michael J. Fox's first movie, which is called Midnight Madness. And Peter Boyle, and it's called The Dream Team. And The Dream Team is about, I don't know even what the politically correct term would be now, but they are patients at a psychiatric ward that go on a field trip into the city with their doctor, and their doctor dies. And so they are in the city on their own, trying to get around. And Christopher Lloyd's character, his idiosyncratic nature of him is he thinks he's the doctor. So he walks around speaking as if he's the doctor, but he's not. He's just one of the patients like everybody else. So I will say The Dream Team at number 5 for my Christopher Lloyd, not Back to the Future.
Oh,
title.
Okay.
But I also
other,
have not seen Bible Man, so I don't know. That could bump it out.
Okay, so I think that I may have made this up, that he was in Bible Man. I've done a lot of Google searches. I've done the keyword searches. Now, when you type in Bible Man, Christopher Lloyd, things do pop up, okay? And I find it very odd that his name is involved with Bible Man in certain places. But I cannot make a one-to-one connection that he was in Bible Man. I cannot find it. So I'm going to dive deep, probably coming up, and really see if I can make the connection of Christopher Lloyd in Bible Man.
This is the next documentary, everybody. It's going to be Brad's journey to connect Christopher Lloyd to the Bible Man animated series.
Well, first of all, I am so curious to see Bible Man. Like, just
I am now. You've done them a great service, by the way. On accident.
Accident.
I am intrigued. As soon as we're done, as soon as we were done last time, I was looking it up, and I've seen the action figures. They look pretty good.
Yeah, Bible Man. I don't know. It seems as though there's a big following for him too, because I see the guy who plays Bible Man when I was Googling it shows up at a lot of conventions. So this might be this whole little niche market that I was not aware of. And I'm not saying that a religious superhero would be niche, but the show I've never heard of.
It would be niche in the same way like Captain Planet was very specific to the environment. This is kind of like, this is like the religious version of a superhero.
Look, all I know is Captain Planet, he's our hero.
Although odd that a religion needs a superhero when it's kind of part of the story already.
Yes, there's a savior, right? Some people
always going to be a sidekick, Bible man.
Always a bridesmaid.
He's never going to be number one.
Never.
Anyway,
he's playing.
This was a good minute.
He's playing from behind. This was a phenomenal minute. So finally, we get to see Mr. Boddy. Yes, Mr. Boddy makes his much anticipated debut in Clue the movie, played by Lee Ving. We've talked about Lee Ving before. I have a lot of questions here that we're going to get into about the actual movie, but for people who don't remember, when we talked about Lee Ving before, this was a guy who was in a punk band. He played at Saturday Night Live.
Still is in that punk band. They still play.
So tell us about Lee Ving.
Lee Ving is in a punk band called Fear, and they most of their song titles you can't say on a radio broadcast for families, but they're just a very rowdy bunch. They were featured very prominently in a documentary called The Decline of Western Civilization, which was from the early 80s, I believe, and directed by Penelope Spheris, who eventually directed the first Wayne's World movie, which has Colleen Camp, who is in Clue the movie. So that's how we do it. But so Fear is in it a lot, and they're just a very rowdy bunch. Their claim to fame, I think, was probably John Belushi of Saturday Night Live fame was a big fan of Fear. And even after Belushi left SNL, he still had some pull on the show. And he had Fear play a Halloween episode of SNL in the early 80s. And it went crazy. You could find it on YouTube. There's a clip of it in the Clue documentary where it's just stage diving and inappropriate language and just chaos. And it led to Fear being one of the few bands banned from Saturday Night Live. So they'll never be on again. But Lee Ving ended up in Clue because it was one of the only castings that Paramount, the studio, really had. They really wanted somebody from Billboard or a musician to play a part in the movie. They thought that would really help box office. So they really pushed for a musician. And I know Gene Simmons was talked about for Mr. Boddy as well, which would have been interesting, maybe a little distracting, but I can see it.
I think I can definitely see it. I think somebody tweet us about that? Did somebody tweet us about Gene Simmons lately?
They mentioned, because we mentioned it, I guess, on an early episode. And so, one of our listeners tweeted and said that they found that very interesting. So to that person, who I don't remember your name, I apologize. But if you found that interesting, here it is again, just for you.
Just for you.
So, but I can't imagine Gene Simmons wanting to play a dead body for most of the movie. Spoiler, sorry, everybody, Mr. Boddy dies. I just can't imagine him lying face down on the ground for an entire movie. But Lee Ving actually enjoyed it. I did get to interview him for the Clue documentary, and I said, was that difficult playing a dead body for most of the movie? And he said, no, it's actually rather enjoyable. They give you a spot, they almost like a chalk outline. You lay down, you go to sleep, and everyone just works around you. So he had a wonderful time doing it. And that wasn't his only movie. He was in Flashdance. And he was in the Tommy Lee Jones movie Streets of Fire.
I've never seen Streets of Fire.
All in the early 80s. Neither have I. But he's in that. And in those movies, you actually do hear his voice, unlike in Clue, where he is dubbed.
And what was the decision for the Lee Ving dub?
It's a very good question. I don't know if it was necessarily performance, because when you hear him talk, his voice is not that different than the voice they got. It just might have been performance. I have to wonder, though, Jonathan Lynn, the director of Clue, was not thrilled to have to cast a rock star. So I wonder, that's why he has the smallest part of the movie, which is not necessarily true. He has a pretty big part. He's just dead for most of it. But I wonder if spite had anything to do with it. That he goes, okay, I'll put you in it, but that voice has got to go. So I'll find somebody that sounds almost exactly like you and dub every single one of your lines.
So
it's possible.
Yeah.
Spite's a wonderful motivator.
Spite is a wonderful motivator. You could see that in season 10, I think, of Curb Your Enthusiasm, the Spite store.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's why there's a whole Latte Larry.
Yeah, Latte Larry versus Mocha Joe.
That's right.
Yeah. So I never could tell that he was dubbed. And maybe if I look with a microscope, maybe I can see some things, but it's almost they did a lot more, I think, full on dubbing in earlier on, like kind of in like movies from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dubbing going on, and sometimes an actor would redub their whole performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually it's when it's either cameras are loud or if they're outside, but this is all on a soundstage, so it's interesting that there is some dubbing in it. Also, I know for a fact that they did shoot the scene where Wadsworth goes to the door and meets Mr. Boddy. They actually shot it of him, arriving, and instead they decided to go with just everybody listening as he comes in, which I think is much more ominous. That we've been talking about him for the last 3 or 4 minutes, and now he's finally here. And when he walks in, credit to Lee Ving, he does not disappoint. He walks in and you go, oh, this guy does not belong here at all. So I kind of think having a rock star and not a comedian makes sense for Mr. Boddy. He doesn't fit. He doesn't belong with this group of people. He stands out like a sore thumb. And
we're still meant to believe that he's the host of this dinner party, or he is the host, the named host of it. But there are a few things I don't understand. Let me start with this. Colonel Mustard, because at the very beginning of this minute, he's kind of outed as also being in Washington, D.C., and then Mr. Green puts together, well, so everybody here makes their living from the government one way or another.
Yeah.
And then Colonel Mustard stands up and says, Wadsworth, I demand to know, why have we been brought here?
Where's our host and why we've been brought here?
Where's our host and why we've been brought here? But they know why they're there, right? I mean, he knows why he's there because he got a letter.
They haven't revealed the letters yet, but all the letters say it'll be to your benefit to come to help with some kind of financial burden that you're dealing with. So he knows why he's there, but they don't know if they all are there for the same reason.
Well, yeah,
so maybe that's him.
But he knows why he's there,
right?
So I think it's kind of a little disingenuous for him to be like, "Why have we been brought here?"
Maybe more specifically, like, why am I brought here beyond just your little vague little letter? Like, what? Why am I here? What are you doing for me? Where's the host that's supposed to put an end to this, to the blackmail? Where is he? How's this going to happen? We just had soup for like 10 seconds, and then we had monkey's brains for like 15 seconds. It's the fastest service in any kind of movie as far as a dining scene ever. The soup is down, the monkey brains are down. Mrs. Peacock finishes it like that, and then off they go. So now let's get to it before Wadsworth can answer, which he probably wasn't going to anyway. Doorbell. That doorbell, boy, the people the guests that arrive in this movie, they got their timing down. That doorbell is always perfect.
It's perfect. They have it perfectly down. So when Mr. Boddy arrives at the door, there's a banter between he and Wadsworth that we hear off camera. Boddy goes, "Are you locking me in here?" Wadsworth says something like, "Yes," and Boddy goes, "Well, give me the key," and he's like, "Over my dead body."
"You're locking me in, I'll take the key," and he says, "Over my dead body."
Yeah, which we believe maybe is foreshadowing, or at least ironic.
It will be referred to again.
Yes, it will be referred to. And here's the part that was interesting. So he has a bag, and Wadsworth's like, "What is in that bag? Evidence or something like that?" Which is also
so
Foreshadowing.
leading to the blackmail. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
He says surprises, but it sounds so much like Joe Mantegna. It's not, but it sounds so much like him. Now, when I found out he was dubbed, I thought, then who is it? Who is this guy? And I still don't know.
No one knows.
But it's not Joe Mantegna. I can tell you that.
So what's
he says there's surprises in the bag.
Surprises
and then he leaves it in the hole.
He leaves it in the hole. Wadsworth, though, asking if it's evidence, I think is another, like when you pointed out that we have an establishing shot of the chandelier, right?
Yeah.
And we show the chandelier, so we know at some point that chandelier has to come into play. It's a foreshadow because they look up at the chandelier. This, when he says what's in the bag, is that evidence? That's another foreshadow, right? Because we know in the bag are weaponry. We come to find out, and that weaponry is used. So it is evidence.
Technically, it will be evidence at the end of the movie. Everything in the bag is evidence. That's very true. Brad Gilmore.
Look at that.
Very nice.
Look at that. But here's the biggest part that confused me.
Okay.
This is the biggest thing that confused me.
All right.
When he walks in to the dining room.
What are they all doing here?
What are they all doing here? I can't figure it out. What does that mean?
I don't think he knows why they're there.
Well, he brought weapons.
Yeah. He brought weapons and he brought enough for everybody.
Exactly enough.
He knows who's there. Yeah, he knows why. Unless he's saying, what are they all doing here, like specifically at this moment? Because Wadsworth does answer, they're eating dinner. So maybe he didn't realize they were going to be fed. I don't know. He's surprised just to see them all eating monkey's brains.
It was a
Maybe he's referring to the brains. Who knows? What are they all doing here? Why are we eating monkey's brains? I know it's a delicacy in Cantonese cuisine, but not often to be found in Washington, D.C., even though they are in New England.
Yes. Oh, gosh. So many questions.
Why?
I don't get it, though. I don't get it really because, you know, we're to believe that. So we know that he's the blackmailer or he's the suspected blackmailer.
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
Right? In 2 out of 3. And then he would have to know who these people are, and he'd have to know why. I don't get the line. The line really bugs me.
I'm sure it's just to throw us, the audience, off.
You think it's just one of those?
He knows. I mean, even when in the third inning where he's the butler, he's one of Mr. Boddy's accomplices, so he knows some of them at least.
Yeah,
they don't know him because obviously Professor Plum doesn't realize that he shot the wrong guy in 3.
Then who did I shoot? That was my.
I think he said. I don't think he says "aw shucks" in the original dub, though. I think they changed his line. I think they cleaned him up a little bit.
You know, well, that's good. They did it for him.
Yeah.
Sure. I just don't get the line, but I love the aesthetic of Lee Ving. I think he actually turned out to be a great casting. Aesthetically, he's intimidating. He looks a little dirty. He looks like he might be a blackmailer.
He's got a sleazy look about him, doesn't he?
The hair slicked back.
We'll see him in. Oh, that might. Do you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that.
Sorry. My iTunes just kicked off for some reason.
What song? What song was there?
It was AC/DC "Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap."
Dirty Deeds.
Yeah,
you know, I was really disappointed.
Just scared the crap.
I was really disappointed because this week when we're recording this, I was supposed to interview Brian Johnson.
That's a weird coincidence.
Because he has a book coming out, and then
although he wasn't on that song, but yes,
he wasn't. That was Bon Scott. That was Bon Scott.
Yeah,
but the luck of AC/DC to find somebody who sings exactly like their singer who died. I mean, pretty much.
And to be accepted, like, as far as I know, I mean, I was very wee at that time, and I wasn't an AC/DC fan in 1980 because I was 4 or 5. But it seems like the AC/DC world accepted him right off the bat because that album was huge.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, and then the records that Brian Johnson has is, I mean, Shook Me All Night Long and Back in Black and did he do TNT? I think he did TNT, didn't he? Or was that Bon Scott?
No,
that's Bon Scott.
Bon Scott. But it's like Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck.
From I think that's 1990. That's back when I was in high school. Money Talks and
a bunch of big records.
And the song from Last Action Hero, Big Gun.
Man, I was so excited to talk to him. And then we got the email at the last second. The publicist, hey, he's having to cancel. He's got something came up. And then you know how that is. It's like,
sure.
I've secured this interview. Something happened. We'll reschedule. Will they, though? No.
You gotta hope. I mean, when I was going to interview Michael McKean, he got into a car accident on the way to the interview.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's it. But he came again.
Right. That's true. So you never know. So hopefully Brian Johnson joins us here on Clue the Movie podcast so we can talk to him about Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, a song that he was not on.
Yeah. But I'm sure he's sung thousands and thousands of times.
I'm sure he has.
Yes.
So Leaving, I thought was just a really good choice as far as the Mr. Boddy himself. Now, or do we believe that this is his house? Because why?
I'm going to say no, because I think in all the endings, Wadsworth, I mean, you can't trust him because he's a bad guy at the end, but he says this house belongs to a friend of mine. I've known about the secret passages all along, which is another great question. Who's his friend?
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in about 50 weeks. But before that, we'll get to that in about a year. But when we do, we'll have to remember that we mentioned who's his friend that has the house.
Yeah. Yeah. And very, very strange. And my other thing with this is if it's not his house, but he's the host of it and Wadsworth's the butler, there's still a lot of questions. You can see it. My brain's I'm trying to put this together as if this is the first time I'm hearing the information. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
trying to solve the crime.
Trying to figure out like what I don't understand so far. There's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. And as the detective on the case, like I don't think that I have anywhere. There's not been a crime committed yet, but I still don't have enough information about who these people are, who exactly is Mr. Boddy,
right?
And all these.
So you're putting yourself. You're like a guest right now, sitting at the table, and you're just wondering what's going on. Would you actually have showed up? Did we talk about this already? We might have talked about this early on.
I don't know if we talked about exactly if you or I would show up.
Yeah, like if you were getting blackmailed and you didn't want to be blackmailed anymore, it was just this financial burden that you're dealing with, and you got this weird letter. Come to this dinner party. We're gonna take care of everything.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know.
And by the way, you're going to be called a color.
What would I be?
So no one's going to know who you are. What color would you be?
Yeah.
Would you want to be one of the ones that's already there? Or
No, I want a different color.
You want a whole different color?
Yeah.
You could be Senor Plaid.
Senor Plaid. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I'll go with it. Senor Plaid.
If we want to do like a color, it could be Senor Azul.
Senor Azul. I like Senor Azul. Could I be
putting a little bit of your Texas kind of Spanish in there to keep it you?
I can dig it. I could be Senor Azul Senior. Senor Azul Senior.
Senor.
Senor. See what I did there?
Yeah.
It's really a special.
It's salsa.
It's when you say salsa. You have the salsa out of the salsa. Okay. Okay. Yeah. This what?
This should be the podcast.
I still don't know what the idea is.
Everybody's talking about Clue. We'll talk about everything but Clue.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
We'll talk about AC/DC. Out of nowhere,
for no reason at all.
Because my iTunes is haunted.
Well, look, we are inching closer to what you've referred to as an inciting incident.
It's pretty much here. Mr. Boddy has arrived.
So he's the catalyst that makes the story go.
Yeah, we're moving on.
Right.
We've got our mystery man there.
Okay. We're going to find out what happens in minute 17.
Yeah, we're going to change locations, I think, in the next one. We're going to have some brandy and the steady.
We spent several minutes in the dining room. We've now met
We did. We're not going back till the end.
We've met all the main characters involved so far. We have more people to meet, but we've met the main ones. And now
this is our final one.
We're going to figure out what Mr. Boddy is doing and why we've all been brought here. Minute 17 is around the corner. Jeff Smith. You can find him at cluedoc.com, theboatbreadgilmore.com, and we'll be back with minute 17 of Clue the Movie.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?